Hey everyone, welcome to Dollar Games, and not every JRPG has to eat up 80 hours of your life. Sometimes you just want the same great stories, memorable characters, and satisfying combat without taking a month off of work just to finish it. So today we're going to look at JRPGs you can knock out in around 30 hours or less. Some are classics, some are newer, but all of them prove you don't need an absurd runtime to make an impact. Also, as always, if you love my videos, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out. Or, honestly, don't. That's also totally okay too. But it would be nice if you did. So, anyways, let's get started. The Trials of Mana remake is one of the few modern reimaginings that keeps the heart of the original intact while making it feel fresh to play. You start by picking your main character and 2 companions from a roster of 6, and that choice completely changes how the story unfolds. The setup is simple: save the world from encroaching darkness, but the personal motivations of your chosen party gives it some extra flavor. Now, don't expect some wildly deep story with political intrigue, because remember, this is still a mana game. You're getting a fun adventure filled with amazing creatures and colors, and as for me, being a lifelong Mana fan, I'm extremely happy with that. So combat is where the game really shines. Everything plays out in real time, and you're swapping between characters on the fly, chaining combos, dodging attacks, and unleashing flashy special moves. It's easy to pick up, but there's enough in the class change system and ability upgrades to keep it engaging all the way through. Now, the pacing is tight, and they designed this game to not require you watching Netflix while you grind away at levels. So every hour feels like it's pushing you towards the next boss fight or story beat. Now, the biggest strength of the Trials of Mana is how straightforward it is without feeling thin. It respects your time, giving you a full JRPG experience in under 30 hours, while still letting you replay it with different characters and story variations. It's colorful and knows exactly what kind of game it needs to be for the fans. So for anyone who loves the genre but doesn't want to commit to a 100-hour marathon, this is about as perfect a pick as you can get. Fuga Melodies of Steel looks like a cute strategy RPG about kids piloting a giant tank, but it doesn't take long to realize it's a lot heavier than the art style suggests. Picture the anime The Promised Neverland, so if you know, you know, and if you don't, go watch it, but don't yell at me afterwards. Now, you're put in charge of a group of children who've lost their families to an invading army, and every mission is about pushing forward in the hopes of saving them. The stakes are clear from the start, and the game doesn't waste time getting you into the action. It's a war story told through the eyes of people who shouldn't even have to be fighting in the first place. The combat is turn-based, with each child operating a different part of the tank. Guns, special weapons, support roles, and you'll spend a lot of time figuring out the right combination of crew to deal with the different enemy types. It's easy to pick up, but layered enough that you have to think ahead, especially since damage carries over between fights. The structure keeps you moving forward, with short breaks at safe points where you can talk to the crew, upgrade your tank, and maybe get a moment of levity before heading back into the battle. What makes this game stand out is how tightly it's designed. You can finish it in about under 20 hours, but there's not an ounce of filler. Every mission matters, and every decision feels like it could come back to bite you later. The game balances quiet, heartfelt moments with tense, high-pressure choices, and it never overstays its welcome. It's one of those rare JRPGs where you get the full emotional hit without having to sink months into it. The Super Mario RPG remake on the Switch is exactly what it needed to be. An update that keeps all the personality of the SNES original while making it feel smoother to play in the modern era. The humor, the quirky cast, and the lighthearted tone are still here, and the new visuals make the world feel more like a Saturday morning cartoon you get to run around in. Except it's not the Saturday morning cartoons we got in the 80s.
With the Mario Brothers and plumbing's a game, we're not like the others who get all the fame.
Anyways, it's a breezy adventure with just enough story and charm to keep you hooked without asking for a huge time commitment. Combat is simple on paper, turn-based with a mix of physical and special attacks. but the timed hit mechanics keep you actively involved. Whether you're trying to squeeze out more damage or block an incoming attack, the extra bit of interaction makes every fight feel snappier than your average JRPG. The remake also adds modern quality of life tweaks, like being able to see when you're successfully nailed your timing, which makes the system even more satisfying. The pacing is one of the game's strongest points. It never lingers too long in one place, and every area feels like it's got its own memorable moment. Whether it's silly boss encounters or quick minigame breaks, you can finish it in under 15 hours without rushing, and it still manages to feel complete. It's short, it's a classic, and it's one of the easiest recommendations for anyone who wants a quick JRPG fix that has that Nintendo charm. Brave Fencer Musashi is pure late 90s Squaresoft energy. An action RPG that doesn't take itself too seriously and moves at a quick pace. You play as a sword-wielding hero yanked into another world to save a kingdom. Yes, it's an isekai. But instead of brooding over your destiny, Musashi spends half the game making sarcastic remarks and getting into absurd situations. The tone is light and playful, and it works because the game never lingers too long in one place. It's definitely a 90s game, and I love every bit of it. The gameplay mixes real-time combat with light platforming and puzzle solving. You've got two swords, one for quick attacks and another for charged, more powerful moves, and the ability to absorb enemy skills to use for yourself. Levels are compact but varied, and the game has a day-night cycle that changes NPC routines and quest availability. It's not a massive open world, but it feels alive in a way that keeps you engaged without padding things out. Now, as a kid, all these features blew me away. For being a PS1 game, you didn't expect to have things like NPC routines and day and night cycles, so it was definitely one of those games I would show off to friends when they came over to convince them to either get the game or buy a PS1. Now, what makes Brave Fencer Musashi perfect for this list is how well it respects your time. You can finish it in under 15 hours, and it still feels like a complete adventure. It's colorful, has a great soundtrack, and has just enough depth in its combat and exploration to stay interesting from start to finish. It's one of those games you can sit down for a weekend and come away feeling like you've been on a full journey. Ys Origin is a great example of how to keep an RPG focused without losing its punch. Instead of the sprawling world map or dozens of towns, the entire game takes place in a single massive tower. The goal is simple: climb it floor by floor, but the tight setting works in its favor, keeping the pace quick and the action constant. The game also lets you pick from 3 different characters, each with their own fighting style and storyline, so there's a good reason to come back for multiple playthroughs, which of course I did. But you can definitely take your time and come back to it if you are looking to move on after one playthrough of the game. Combat is classic Ys, fast, fluid, and built around dodging, weaving, and unloading flashy attacks in quick bursts. Every encounter feels active, and boss fights are the real highlight, with big, memorable designs and attack patterns that keep you moving. Because there's no real downtime between areas, the game keeps you in that satisfying combat loop without bogging you down in filler. Honestly, Ys is your best bet when it comes down to combat, and this is the best bite-sized experience you can get and still enjoy this amazing series. You can get through Ys Origin in under 10 hours with one character, or take closer to 20 to 25 if you play all 3 routes. Either way, it's tight, it's replayable, and just enough story and character moments to keep you invested without dragging things out. It's the kind of game you can knock out in a weekend and prepare you for your Ys full series playthrough. Do it. You know you want to. Live Alive is one of the most unique JRPGs you can play, especially in its modern HD 2D remake. Instead of one long continuous story, it's split into multiple short chapters, each set in a completely different time period with its own protagonist and gameplay quirks. You might be playing a ninja sneaking through feudal Japan in one chapter, then a near-future psychic fighting in an arena the next. It's like a sampler platter of JRPG ideas, and the variety keeps it fresh all the way through. Having never experienced the original since it never came out in the US, this took me, and I'm pretty sure everyone, by surprise. It's definitely not a perfect game, and I wish the central story weaved a little bit better as all the characters got together, but outside of that, the game really delivers something special in terms of the story. As for the combat, it is grid-based but streamlined, mixing positioning with quick turn-based actions. Because each chapter is short, you don't spend hours grinding or mastering overly complex systems. You get just enough time to enjoy each character's abilities before moving on to the next story. And when the final chapter pulls everything together, it gives you that satisfying, oh, now it all makes sense moment that ties the whole thing up. It's also incredibly manageable in length. Each chapter takes just a couple of hours, so you can kind of finish this game in about 20 to 25 without rushing. That makes it perfect for short play sessions, and the different settings mean you can step away for a few days and come back without feeling lost. It's a rare JRPG that's both bite-sized and ambitious, and that combination is exactly why it works so well. Cosmic Star Heroine is an indie JRPG that wears its love for the 16-bit era on its sleeves, but trims out all the bloat those older games sometimes had. It's a sci-fi spy story that moves at a brisk pace, with quick scene changes and no long stretches of wandering around wondering where you need to go. The writing keeps things light and snappy, but it still delivers enough twists and character moments to make you care about the crew you're building. Now, I believe this might have been one of the first indie JRPGs I played back in the day. It has that fun writing I do appreciate in indie games, and I'm all about having more sci-fi themed JRPGs, so I hope we see more in the future. Now, the turn-based combat is built around a system where most abilities can only be used once before you refresh them. So there's no falling into the habit of spamming the same move over and over again. You're always switching things up, deciding when to go all in with your best attacks and when to play it safe. Battles are fast, strategic, and over before they wear out their welcome. Exactly what you want in a shorter RPG. At around 10 to 15 hours, Cosmic Star Heroine doesn't waste your time. It packs in stylish visuals, a killer soundtrack, and plenty of variety without padding the runtime. If you grew up with Chrono Trigger or Phantasy Star 4, this feels like a natural successor. Familiar in all the right ways, but streamlined for modern players. Parasite Eve is one of the most unique blends of genres to come out in the late 90s Square. I started this one again recently and was pulled into it right away. I forgot how much I loved this game, and I honestly couldn't put it down. It's part survival horror, part JRPG, and it takes place in a modern day, and by modern day I mean the 90s, New York, during a bizarre bioorganic disaster over Christmas. So you could count this as a Christmas game, kind of like how Die Hard is a Christmas movie, and no, I'm not going to change my mind on that. So you play as Aya Brea, an NYPD officer who gets caught up in the chain of events involving spontaneous human combustion. Pretty typical. Now, you're also dealing with mutated creatures and a villain with unsettling god-complex energy. The story wastes no time. By the end of the first hour, you're already deep into the weirdness, and it never lets go. Combat uses a real-time with pauses system, where you can move around freely to dodge attacks, but you can only act when your AT bar fills. It keeps you on your toes in a way turn-based systems don't, and the ability to upgrade weapons and armor gives the RPG side more depth than you'd expect from something that also feels like a horror game. Encounters are frequent but short, and boss fights often double as story beats, making progression feel tightly tied to the narrative. At a roughly 10 hours, Parasite Eve is paced well, extremely memorable, and unlike anything else from its era. It's intense but a ton of fun, and its short runtime means you aren't dealing with much bloat. The mix of cinematic storytelling, fast-moving combat, and unsettling atmosphere makes it perfect for players who want a JRPG with no fluff and plenty of bite. Vagrant Story is unlike any other JRPG from its era. It's a tightly focused dungeon-crawling political thriller that trades overworld maps and random towns for shadowy streets and ruins of Leamont. You play as Ashley Riot, an agent investigating a tangled mess of conspiracies, cults, and ancient magic. It's atmospheric from the first minute, with cinematic camera work, moody lighting, and a story that feels Shakespearean rather than their typical late 90s RPG. It's paced incredibly well and keeps you moving through the engaging story quickly. Now, combat is where this game does get a lot of discourse online. It can be very convoluted and has turned a lot of people off, but it's totally worth it for the story. The combat is real-time with a targeting system that lets you aim for specific body parts, adding a layer of strategy to every fight. The real depth, though, is in its weapon crafting and customization. You can break down and rebuild almost every piece of gear, tailoring it to deal more damage against certain types of enemies. It's a system that rewards tinkering but doesn't waste your time, since you'll see the payoff in the very next fight. And while the game never holds your hand, and kind of to its fault, its small interconnected map means you're always making progress. As a kid, this game was incredibly hard, but it was worthwhile. I hope we see a more streamlined remake one day, but until then, it's worth a playthrough. At around 15 to 20 hours, Vagrant Story is dense but digestible. It's short enough to finish without burnout, yet deep enough to stick with you long after. Between its unique blend of political drama, atmospheric exploration, and highly technical combat, it's the kind of game that leaves a lasting impression without demanding 100 hours of your life. Alright, so Eternal Sonata is definitely at the higher end of the length spectrum, but it's just the game I want to talk about because it definitely needs more love. Being stuck on the Xbox 360 and PS3, I would love to see this one ported to modern consoles for people to enjoy. It has one of the strangest setups in the genre. It takes place inside the dream of a composer, Frédéric Chopin, as he lies on his deathbed. It sounds ridiculous, but the game leans into it completely, mixing real historical details with a colorful fantasy world and cast of original characters. The result is a story that's equal parts whimsical and melancholy, with moments that feel like a fairy tale and others that hit surprisingly hard. It's also paced in a way that always keeps you moving forward, never really dragging out those big moments. Now, combat blends turn-based and action elements. You move your character in real time during their turn, positioning yourself for attacks. And then you chain together combos before the clock runs out. Light and darkness play a role in battle too, with your ability changing depending on where you're standing, which adds a layer of strategy without slowing things down. It's a system that stays engaging from start to finish, and the battles are quick enough to keep the momentum going. At around 30 hours, Eternal Sonata is long enough to feel like a full journey, but short enough to finish in a couple of weeks of casual play. The art direction is gorgeous, the soundtrack is filled with Chopin's music alongside original compositions, and the whole thing feels like a self-contained, polished experience. It's one of those games that's easy to recommend to anyone who loves JRPGs, but doesn't want to get buried in a massive time sink. Well, this list is proof that a JRPG doesn't have to be a 100-hour epic to be worth your time. Sometimes a tighter runtime makes the experience more memorable, not less. If you've got any short JRPG favorites I didn't mention, drop them in the comments and let's have a conversation. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video. Take care, everyone.